It's about how can you go back to that place in an instant? And
No.
that's where you want to be. You want to be in that where you have full control. We're not relying on a drug or a plant medicine or something to get us there. We're getting there through our own work. We're getting there through our own sincerity, I guess. And that's what it comes down to. It's how bad do you want it, and how deep do you want to go down the rabbit hole? It's a deep place when you want to go there. So it depends on how far you want to go down, I guess.
So you keep saying infinity, and when you say infinity, the only thing I can think of is that we live in this parallel universe that goes for infinity, and there's infinity timelines, infinity versions of ourselves that go for infinity.
Well, infinity means beyond time and space. Yeah. So time is a specific thing. Space is a specific thing. If you take those two things away, what's left? Infinity. So it's something that you really, it's difficult to put into words, and it's difficult for people to understand intellectually. You have to experience it. You have to take the mind there to experience it. And that's what people have when they say, well, you do ayahuasca or DMT, they have these infinity experiences. They're experienced in the deepest nature of themselves, which is great, but they have no control over it. You can't go back there in an instant. Train the mind and our awareness and our perception to be able to raise through those states of awareness. And that's the whole goal of meditation. You look at it, you can attain enlightenment through a rock. You look at a rock, you pitball one point and focus on the rock. Everything else starts to disappear. You go into tunnel vision. Time starts to slow down. When the time starts to slow down, you start to let go of space. Space starts to let go, and you keep going deeper and deeper into the rock. And then you see the underlying emptiness under the rock, and you move into emptiness and an infinity quality. And from there, it's a whole different game, I guess.
Cool. David, how you doing?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
I'm good for a Saturday night. I just chowed down on some food, and I looked at the time. I'm like, holy crap, like I've got 30 minutes to set this up and get it rolling, and rushing around to put it all together so we can sit down and have a chat and find out a little bit about yourself and your journey through the meditational realm that interests me. Say 2 years, almost 3 years of my life, I've kind of explored yoga, meditation, and, there's things in the meditational field that's just like, there's a lot of questions I want to know, because it's like, as how we sort of get around this society, it's something that's not taught in sort of the Western world to say, and like if you want to label it in the spirituality sector to say, it's sort of like, it's not frowned upon, but it's like say, for example, the other day I played a song, which was like a shaman song. And the guy that was working with me, he like freaked out and he looked, and he's like, what, don't play that spiritual stuff. Like as if it's like demonic, like as if it's like, you stupid churchy, like it's just weird. So some people can freak out about it, because it's like, it's that fear of going within, because within a lot of people, they've got a lot of demons, and there's a lot of things that people don't want to face. The biggest secret that we face is it's us. Like we are the secret, and once we go within and explore that realm, like all the answers are there. So I want to know more. I'm interested. What is the gold lining of the art of attunement?
Attunement comes from my teacher's teacher, basically. That's what he called it when he was teaching. So it's basically a process of, from my perspective, bringing the soul into balance. So once the soul is in balance, then we can touch higher aspects of ourselves, basically.
So the yin and yang, just the yin and yang to say, or
Yeah, basically bringing the different aspects of our character into balance so
Yeah.
we can maintain equilibrium. Equilibrium is the key. If you can't equalize with a frequency,
Yeah.
then you can't harmonize with that frequency and you can't experience it. So
Yeah.
you need to be able to bring our character is what stops us from connecting with different frequencies, because we can't maintain the equilibrium, we can't balance, we can't harmonize with that frequency.
Yeah.
It's really about working through like some people call it shadow work, or character training, or whatever you want to call it, but that's the basis of all, should be the basis of all systems, because without perfecting the character and trying to be a better person, so to speak, everything else is a little bit pointless. It doesn't really mean much. It's I think the whole point of us being here is to try and become a better human, so we're not having reactions to things and not getting, I like this, I dislike this, we're just experience the present moment.
Our time on this planet could be like, this is our karma to say, and it's up to us to correct it, and maybe by going within can correct it to give us that balance to get us through this 3D realm karma reality, to say, maybe, I don't know.
I think you're probably not far away from the truth there. The way again, my teacher's teacher explained it was that, and this is a bit out there, but Earth is a bit of a jail planet. We come to deal with our stuff, basically.
Yeah. And, I've heard some people say, and this is probably a bit voodoo talk, but that the moon is actually sort of not a soul harvesting sort of cycle, but that's where soul goes to reincarnate and get selected to come back into this thing. You don't have to agree. I just heard it, it could be true, but I mean, we'd never know. There has been, I had a conversation with a family friend, and we were speaking about the moon, and I would never expect him to say what he said, but he's like that, that when they're doing tests and stuff like that on the moon, that when things would impact it chime, like it was like a bell, and that all the meteorite dents or the craters are all the same depth. So even though there's small sort of impact or comet impacts on the moon, by diameter, some are, certain size, maybe from a meter wide to hundreds of meters wide, that no matter the width of them, they're all the same depth, and the inside of it is hollow. So it could be a little, a washing machine for the human soul before it reincarnates on this planet.
Who knows? Possibly.
Yeah. So how long you been in the meditational realm, like your journey to say, you were over in a Buddhist temple. So how did that all begin?
I met my teacher in the year 2000 and on the Gold Coast. He's from Finland. He's about 6'4" and a bit of a giant. I met him in 2000 and we started training together, and pretty quickly I knew he had something that was pretty special.
Yeah.
And I've been training with him ever since. So the last 20 years, he's a pretty incredible human, and it's been an interesting ride. So we basically had some land up in the mountains of Gold Coast.
Yeah.
So we built like a health retreat up there and had cabins in the forest. Lived up there for about 6 years. No electricity, no water, no toilet, no shower. It was pretty involved. But very, very good times. So very interesting. And then throughout that time, I went to Thailand and went to live in the temples over there for quite some time. Did that a couple of times, and I've been my 20s were basically pretty involved in practice. Pretty deep in, and then during my 30s, I've been more of a family man, I guess.
You have to at some point.
A couple of kids. I got a couple of beautiful daughters. A very lucky man. But so that was my 30s, and now I'm hitting my 40s. I'm kind of everything's starting to switch back on again, and getting pushed back down in this direction. So I'm just flying with it, and seeing where we go from there.
So what was the shortest and what was the longest length that you were in Thailand? Like, did you fully disconnect from sort of everything that's associated with the Western world? Like, did you go deep or?
I shaved my eyebrows off and
Did you really?
Yeah, I was in.
Wow.
Was pretty deep in. I wasn't coming back. I wasn't planning on coming back. So I was planning on staying there forever. But a few things happened which sort of just bounced me out, and I ended up coming back into Australia.
Yeah. So is it true that when you're over there and you go into one of the temples that it's up to you to get your own source of food, and you do have to walk through some of the streets of Thailand or out of the temples, and the locals give you the food? Is that true?
It's a pretty hard life. The bell goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you wake up and you practice for a couple of hours, and then you get dressed and you walked. We had to walk to the village, which is about probably 10 kilometers away.
Yeah.
And we'd walk to the village, bare feet, rocks, and it was quite beautiful actually. These villages would come out of houses that are smaller than most people's bedrooms, with the big beautiful smiles and just amazing people. And they would kneel on the side of the street until the monks would come, and they put all the food in the bowls, and we walk back to the temple, and they bless the food, and you go and eat your one meal, and and then you spend the rest of the day practicing. It's one meal a day. They do a one night every 8 days on every quarter moon. You don't sleep, so you practice through the night. It's pretty sort of very involved.
What's the point? What's the purpose between or without for not sleeping? What's that for?
They do it in conjunction with the moon cycle, but it's more. The forest tradition in Thailand is very hardcore. They basically cut off the emotions, they cut off the physical body, and they just focus on the mind. And it's a bit of a very, very intense training to some degree, and so they're not doing a lot of energy work to support themselves in that respect or make themselves stronger, or they're just going as hard as they can to basically break down the mind. So it's a very interesting system. Some very powerful monks over there, and you can see that they've got something special. When I was there was a few monks that walked into the temple, and you could just see that it's like bright suns. Just you don't even have to be psychic or clairvoyant to see their aura. They're just radiating. Just got something special. So you can see that system it does work. And,
do you think that is sort of like the Buddhist say monk life, or do you think that is like just the full human true potential or the capabilities of like what the human like say for example, you don't have to be like, you can be of any culture, any race, whatever. Like, do you think that is just the practice of sort of Buddhism or so hang on a sec, just so I can get it right actually. So were you practicing to be a monk? So you were a full monk or not?
Not a full monk, no.
No, you weren't a full monk. So you were going to Buddhist temples and
it takes about 12 months to ordain and work and get robes and that kind of thing. I left before that time.
Yeah, right. Okay, cool. So you mainly were just in there like the whole practice.
Basically living the same way, but you're in white. You're not in the full robes. So
right. So
if you go to become a full monk, then you change your name, you change everything, and then you get robes, and it's from there. It's you're on.
How long does it take to get to the darker robe? I don't even know the color of it. I was going to say brown, but I wasn't sure. So
in the forest tradition, it's pretty much straight away. I think it's not really. There's not really much of a difference. The city temples are more the light coloured robes, so more the really bright orange robes. They're more in the city guys, and then the forest monks are more the dark brown robes. They're probably the way to understand it is the city monks are generally more intellectual, so they study Buddhism and they really study it deeply, whereas the forest monks are just meditators and their hardcore practices.
So it's not like getting a karate belt. It's just
no.
Okay.
It's not.
That's what I thought. I'm thinking, there's stages to it.
There's definitely a hierarchy.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a hierarchy. You've got the head monk, and then you've got the senior monks under them. So there is a hierarchy there.
Yeah.
Which is the aspects that I don't really gel with. I mean, I never believed in that whole hierarchical thing. My teacher never projected it towards me. He just always approached me on an equal playing field. It was never I'm here and you're there, and that's the way I think it should be. We're all part of the same thing, and there's no one better than anyone else. So.
I've got two quick questions. Can you go in there with long hair if you choose to, or do you have to shave your hair off? Because if shit gets real in Australia, I'm not saying that I'm going to bail and go to a Thai Buddhist temple. Like, I'm thinking about it. There's parts of me that really want to do it, but
there's quite a few good ones in Australia as well. There's some interesting places.
Well, I'm thinking I may not want to be here if shit gets, any wilder. But can I keep my long hair, or do I have to get rid of it?
No, they're pretty accepting.
Yeah, good, because that may stop me from leaving. If I got to shave it all off, I don't think I could do the no eyebrows. Like, I don't know.
I shaved my eyebrows off, and when I was there, and I had to go into the city to get something when I was there, and you can imagine where I was, it was like northeastern Thailand, so there's no Westerners inside.
Yeah.
So walk into the shopping centre completely white with no eyebrows, and it was pretty confronting for a lot of people, I think.
But they know, right? They know.
Yeah. They're not silly.
Were you were you born in the 80s?
80, yeah.
80s. Wow, you're like almost my age. I thought you were a little bit older. So you would have grew up in the sort of. Were you interested in the Shaolin monks and Wu Tang or such? No, okay. Because they got like the little, they got little white dots on them, the Shaolin ones.
Yeah. But it wasn't really my thing. I think the monk thing, it was a bit interesting. You could see that there were still monks that were just there being monks, but there was about 30 monks there, and I would have said maybe 5 monks had something real. They had something that were touching, and the rest of them was kind of just living as monks. That was something that was interesting to see when I was there, but there's still a religious aspect. I mean, ultimately, Buddhism is a science. When you really study it, it's a scientific practice, and the religious stuff that's connected to it is not really, it's not important, and it's more of an abstraction for most people than you really just studied it and did the practice and focused on practicing properly, you'd get the results that you're looking for.
Yeah, right. I was actually, what book was I reading? I don't have it in here. What is it? It's there's a book of Dalai Lama, and it was what is it? I can't even think of the title. It was oh god, I can't think, because he said something in there like there's two types of meditation. There's one that's I can't think of it. I really wish I had it. Hang on. Yeah, I think I read it down in here. Let me see if I can find it. Because it was rather interesting as I was getting through the book, and I'm like, I need to write that down and learn it, because if I was going to take anything away from this book, where is it? I don't think I've got it. I think this is it here. Hang on. So yeah, so two types of meditation. One with object, analytical meditation. Does that sound familiar or not? No. Yeah. And then one is settle meditation, compassion in your heart, finding the meditation to change our attitude towards others, stay fixed on. Oh, okay, maybe that might have been a. It might have been a specific practice. I don't know. Yeah, I need the book, but I don't have it in here. But it just went into saying like the two types of meditation, Anyway, doesn't matter.
I've learned a lot of Buddhism, but that wasn't what I was initiated into. I was initiated into Hermetics meditation. So it's more, that's most of the meditation that I do is based on Hermetic principles.
Yeah.
With a bit of a Buddhist flavor to keep it honest, I guess. So it's a bit of more of a science-based system. You practice a certain way. The way I approach meditation is more kind of like gym training, I guess.
Yeah.
It's more our mind is a muscle, and we just need to train it the same as anything else. So
you do it daily?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you explored sort of diet and not specific foods, but just the full benefits, and found, depending on diet, say gut biome and stuff like that, that if you were to say sort of reach sort of like I don't know I don't know the actual word, but it's like, that heightened state of awareness, to say, like, have you found that there's sort of layers or like say the chakra theory, to say, like, have you tuned into some deep stuff like that?
Yeah, but I mean, when you're in the temple and you're only eating one meal a day and you're not eating meat, you definitely notice a difference. It's much easier to hold your state of awareness up high. Whereas, when you're eating meat and you're eating a lot of food, your body's working a lot. Our body's physiology is what blocks a lot of our senses.
Yeah.
So because our spirit is stuck inside of our body doing things to desensitize us to some degree. Whereas when you're not eating as much and you're, on a vegetarian diet, so to speak, the mind does become a lot lighter and a lot clearer.
Yeah.
But it's not essential. If you've got enough willpower, you can get beyond that without too much work.
Yeah. That's something that I've actually noticed. I've noticed, like, like I've done a couple of yoga sessions where after it, sort of like the monkey chatters or the monkey brain has just stopped, like the anxiety in the brain, not the real sort of anxiety to say, but like the anxiety in the brain, you just get that platform of calm, and I found that through some yoga that can release that. But then at the same time, I found with specific diets, specific foods, that you can also get that state of calmness without sort of doing any meditation, without even, doing any sort of yoga, to say. And it's interesting, because it's like, if you're not taught that and you don't learn it and you don't understand it, like it's useful things to sort of, like, I like to put it in my daily life, like it's like we need to do more of it. That's basically what I'm trying to get at. Like, it's these little things that we're not taught, and I think that we need to sort of do more of it to really get back in tune with ourselves and find out who we really are. So yeah, but yeah. And have you ever heard of a guy called Brian Scott?
No,
I'll send you a link of his, because I think probably say 2 years ago, I probably had like this experience where I put like a meditation practice on while I slept, and it was to I don't know the frequencies that they use through playing it. Like, it was a bit of a guided one, and it was to go into like this higher you, or this higher self of you. It's like, so you can tap into this different reality timeline. And I put it on, I listened to it, and probably within about 30, 40 minutes in, like I woke up and I was in bed, and I'm like, I didn't know where I went. And it almost felt like I was just so deep in this meditation or whatever it was. It was like, it allows you to tap in like parallel realities, because they say that we live in this multi-dimensional universe with parallel universes, and all these different timelines. And I felt like I tapped into this different timeline. And when I woke up in my bed, like it's almost like, whether it was my dream state or my higher self, literally opened up a door, went into like this other dimension, and I don't know, I just woke up and I reappeared like in my bed, and I'm like, wow, something quite weird happened then. And the next day I was just, it was like I was living a different life, you know, like it allowed me to, you know, like say if I was stuck in a rut or had a bad habit, it allowed me to sort of change that course and tap into a better, higher self version of myself. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? You get that?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Do you understand like what that is all about? Like, do you know where you go, or what, like?
It's an infinite amount of possibilities. So it's a matter of whenever those kind of things happen, you want to really feel them deeply, but experience them without too much emotion connected to it. But remember the frequency of what happened, because those things are generally real experiences that happen, and you can increase them and make them happen more. It's just a matter of tuning into that frequency and learning how to adapt it and make it become stronger, basically.
So where is that frequency?
Generally, it would be on the mental plane. So if we break down what we are, we have a physical body, we have an emotional or astral body, and we have a mental body. So the mental body is not restricted to time and space. So you think about it, you can put your mind on the moon in an instant. You don't have to move there to get it. You can get there in an instant. The mental body is not restricted by space. And what we have is we've lived our whole lives inside of our body, that our mental body is really stuck inside of our body. And it's hard for people to expand their mental body out. And that's the whole path of meditation. We want our mental body to increase in size, so we become more of our environment. I become you and you become me. And when that happens, you feel it's an automatic compassion. It's an automatic feeling of love and kindness, because you are part of me and you're part of everything. And that's the whole path, and is to get the mental body out of the physical body and get beyond the body, basically.
Right. Where we are now in this conversation, right? This is where I want to be, right? This is where I want to be, because this is what I don't get and this is what I don't understand. And these are my experiences that I've had, you know? So let's try and stay on here for a little bit. Like, I don't know, this is where I really wanted to go. I didn't know how to get here, but you really, yeah. Cause look, man, I've had my own personal experiences, man. And it's just like, it's crazy. And, you know, when you open the door and you go out and you take part in society, right, you see a lot of people that are just stuck in this sort of program, this, you know, just a cog in a wheel, this program. And if you're somebody like me and was a part of that system and then fully ejected out of it, and you've come into this new space where literally all the answers are, and literally, like, it's not for everyone, but we all need to do it so we can have that aha moment to understand what we really are within, what we're really capable of, and who we can actually be. Because who we think we actually are in this 3D reality is not who we really are. You know, the design of it is to make us think that this is what we need to do. You know, like, we think that we need to have the 9 to 5. Like, if you look at the whole system, like, and as you said before, like, you know, it's like a prison, you know, if this is a prison planet, it's a prison of the mind. But yeah, like, we're just generation after generation, we're conditioned to think that we need to live this eat, sleep, work, repeat 9 to 5 cycle where it's 365 days a year on repeat, you know. And I don't know if you've seen me post about this, but man, I when I had this moment, when I figured that out and I had this aha moment, and I'm like, I felt like I had to tell the world, but I'm like, but realistically, we are this species that think that normalcy is living 365 days a year on repeat, which is, you know, we have New Year's Day, we have Australia Day, Next minute we have Easter, then we have Mother's Day, and then we have our birthday, and then we have tax time, and then we have Father's Day. Have I missed anything? No. Then we have Christmas, and then we have New Year's, and it's like, oh, we get a week off at the end of the year, or 2 weeks off. Let's take a holiday. Oh, it's the New Year's Day. Let's do it all again. Right. And it's like, well, where in this program, you know, you've got this dark force cabal that's performing this new world order and just trying to get us all in this enslavement system. But how did I get here? Hang on, I just rambled on there. But yeah, like when you see that whole concept of it, and then you tap out of it, do some meditation, you do some yogas, and you go, holy fucking shit! Like, you know, it's like you want to tell more and more people, like, you know, that there's this crazy fucking other world that has not been explored, you know, here. And yeah, like all this stuff had happened to me, and I'm trying to reach out to so many people to just find out, like, hey, like what is going on, you know, like how. I mean, you said it great then with what you were saying, you know, and like all these levels, like you said about the frequencies and stuff, and that platform. What exactly, like, what is that platform to say? Like, is that just the control station of who you really are deep down or within?
What do you mean between the different bodies?
Well, so, okay. The best way I can explain it is I've done a 12-week spirit-led breathwork mentorship recently. And a couple of times what I feel like I did through breathwork, and it was probably maybe after 10, 15 minutes of deep breathwork, you know, if I was to draw it, it'd probably make sense. But like if I had my physical body would be on the ground. But if I detach myself from my brain, you know, because like it's like me having this conversation with you now, like all the words that's coming out, like it's coming from somewhere, right? And if I'm in this present moment, like I feel like I'm here to say, right? But in this breath work, it's like I kind of went from here and all of this switched off, and then I just kind of went that way and went down a set of stairs, and then like just came to some place, and it was like I was just in this cockpit of unlimitless, you know, and I kind of went that way, and that way was like, say, actually it's quite funny since I'm saying it like this, it almost feels like it's like the chambers in the Egyptian pyramids, right? Like that's what it feels like. And so like, but if you go up that way, that is where your maybe source is, the creator, I don't know. But it's like you've just come down into this, just in this field. And it's like, have you ever done ayahuasca?
No.
No. Okay. You done DMT? No. I've only done little bits, but even if you said yes, I'm hoping you could say, yeah, that's it, what it is. But yeah, like it's, I don't know, man, whether I was just an orb. I could have been like a little orb of energy inside myself. Does that explain it?
Depends on what we're explaining.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, look, and going within, one thing I found is that in us, we are all God, we are all love, we are all creation, and that's it. We're love. We're all love within, and we are all basically one.
Yeah.
We're all actual individuals, but when you narrow it down, we are all one, and we are all that one thing. Whether that connects us to consciousness itself and the source hub of consciousness, I don't know.
Possibly.
Yeah.
No, it's a hard subject to talk about, because it's, as soon as you put into words, it kind of stops it from being what it is. And that's why I think it's better just to more focus on the practice rather than try and understand it too much, because when you intellectualize it too much, it stops it from being what it really is. And As soon as you put it into words, it's kind of not it anymore. So I think the way I was taught, it was more along the lines of do this practice and that side effect happens. Do this practice and that side effect happens. It's more a focus on the practice, focus on the work. It's like I reference a lot of things to training in the gym because it's something I've had experience with in the past. And it's really exactly the same thing. If you train a certain way, you get a certain result. If you train a certain way in the gym, you get a certain result. If you put a huge amount of effort in with poor technique, you don't get a whole lot of results. If you put a huge amount of effort in with good technique, you get a lot of results very, very quickly. And it's the same thing with training the mind. You just need to know how to train it properly. And that's just something that's missing in our society. It's been lost. And that information has been hidden, it's been lost, and you know, people have kept it to themselves. People that have touched it haven't really thrown it out there.
Well, it's like taboo, right?
It's not that it's taboo. Humans are attracted to power, and they're attracted to having people underneath them. So you find that most teachers won't really give everything that they've got because they want to be up here rather than their students are here. So
that itself can take away energy as well.
It's not the true stuff. It's not really where it's at. You know, when the energy can't come through a teacher like that anyway. So it's not really, you know, to be really. It's not about. It's about you being able to be empty. An empty vessel, and bring the energy through so it's clear and it's pure as possible. So you know, whatever the teacher is doing, they want to be able to let go of themselves, open up, and bring whatever the student needs through. And that's the job of a teacher. I think you want to be as clear as possible and as empty as possible, rather than trying to create more of an identity or more of a, you know, and that's something that I've struggled with over the past. So.
Since you say identity, I'll just tell you a little story. It may be funny, it may not be funny. So in the yoga space, I found that it's all community, and a lot of them are, you know, females. Nothing against females. I like females, right? But if you aren't like them, you do not fit in. And you have to be either vegan or, you know, just in one of their funky groups. And I remember one time I finished class because I used to do this yin yoga practice. And then after that used to do, I think it was like an hour meditation. And we, at the end of the class, the teacher, she said, if anyone's got any requests for next week, let me know. And I said, yeah, bring some snacks, you know, like bring some food. Right? And she was like, oh, what? Like, and I said, some snacks. She didn't know I was saying snacks. Anyway, I'm like, snacks. And she goes, yeah, as long as you like vegan food. And just this like couple of the girls, because they were like rolling their mats and putting their blocks away. And this girl, like, she turned around, she goes, oh, vegan food? I love vegan food. And then this other girl, she's like, oh, vegan? What, you're a vegan? And then this other girl was like, oh, I'm a vegan too. And it was like 5 girls just all huddled. They all found their identity by claiming that they're all vegans. And it was like, it was just, have you ever heard like yoga teachers like upspeak? You know, like they put on this, it's like this, and like they don't talk normal. And it was just like, oh, I'm vegan too. Oh, and I was just like, anyway, my point with this is, I heard some guy speak, I think his name's John Joseph Watson. He's like an American guy, and he's a triathlon dude. And he like spent years in, you know, Buddhist temples and learning meditation. And what he said a quote, and he said like the main, one of the main tenets to, I think it was Buddhism, but it was like, know thyself as a spirit being and nothing more in a materialistic world. right? So if you go into the realm of yoga and these individuals are claiming that they're all this like higher power in this spiritual sense, you're like, well, you've just gone completely backwards because you're claiming a title or you're labeling yourself as a vegan. And realistically, if you were to class yourself as a spirit being, well, then you're not a spirit being in a materialistic world. So I always used to love that curveball. And whenever I was having a debate with a vegan in the yoga community, I used to just always blast them with that. And I felt great. I felt great. I felt like that I had that higher power. And, it's a weird time dealing with those vegans. God damn it. They can bloody throw some daggers at you if you're not paying attention.
Human beings are tribal.
Well, that's it. It is definitely it. But I think at the same time, there's a lot of us that have lost that tribal way as well. The natural instinct, I think, is tribal, but I think it's just obviously all sort of modified to suit or adopt how we see things today. Like I remember I was having this conversation with a guy, and he was talking about people that how they pretend to be on Instagram, how it's like they've either got the shirts off or girls are posing on the beach and it's flirtatious and it's like all these things and they're trying to get attention. Like you look at that now and you categorize people like that they're just these image seekers, but it's not. It's just the fact that that's how we've merged now with technology, because back in the 80s, it wasn't like we used to be that person in a swimsuit, taking a photo for Instagram. Before it was like, you know what I mean? Like we used to do that in a camera or VHS or stuff like that. So I think like there's still parts of our true nature, but I think with technology, we've gradually sort of merged a little bit and just sort of changed as well. So, but you say tribal. I'm talking a lot here. Just interrupt. But you say tribal, and I think now's the time that I see a lot of people going to that ancestral way, that tribal way, and getting real connected to it with a lot of sound healing and breath work and all this sort of stuff and forming community. I think this shift, this new age that we're going into age of Aquarius, is actually calling for the human being to get connected with its real self.
Yeah, I'd agree. I've got a big yearning for nature myself at the moment.
You are?
Yeah.
You what are you doing?
We live in a city in Brisbane, but considering trying to get some land somewhere and maybe start like a health retreat of some kind, somewhere where it's like a bit of a sanctuary. That's the plan. The goal.
Yeah. Well, if you look at like the Amish or Hamish, however you pronounce it, the Amish, you look at those specific sort of churchy sort of places that have disconnected from society. Like I think that is where a lot of us are going to steer towards, but in a spiritual sense. I think that is the next sort of move we make.
Breaking out of the city karma. So city karma is a definitive thing. That everyone knows when you drive up into the mountains or you go to a different place, you've broken out of. There's a certain spot where you break out of the city karma, and you're no longer in that group consciousness of the people in that city. So that's a definitive thing.
I feel like I've got a fire in my studio over there, and I don't. It's just the candle. It's just coming to an end. So just give me 1 sec. Let me. Something calling me, man. I don't know what it is. I mean, I think there's something calling us all. I think this is what's going to get us out of this next hurdle that we face as a society. Yeah, she's pretty friggin' wild out there. That's for sure. So,
Interesting.
yeah. This one class that I done, it was a full meditation practice through the yoga studio. But we were sitting upright, and then like every 15 minutes we're going through these sort of movement phases, and every time we're sort of like looking up and they direct us to look up, I'd have like all these sort of peaceful lights, sort of like amber sort of pyramids to say, right? And everything was just weird. But then every time I'd go down, like I'd face down or put my head down, I'd get sort of the darker, sort of negative self-talk sort of thoughts, right? And I kind of sensed it a little bit, and it was like I was just going through, like trying to shut off the chatter of everything I had to do in the week. And I'd think about something that I had to do with work, and it would be like, something bad might happen. And then you'd catch that thought, and then you're like, you bring yourself back to the now to say, and why am I thinking of that? It hasn't happened. And then, but when I just found that whenever you're looking down, something negative, whenever you're looking up. But I caught this one time when I was like on this sort of realm, and I felt like it was the actual platform to the, I don't know, to the controller to who we maybe are. Like, I'm not saying that we're this simulation, but some people could say that we're in this simulation, right? And if we are this sort of ball of light or this ball of consciousness, well, if that's the case, well, then something has to control that, right? So if something is actually controlling that, then where is the hub? Like, where is the, like we play Grand Theft Auto and we use the controller, we play the game, like inside that PlayStation, inside that TV is where the game's taking place. So it's like, well, if we are the Grand Theft Auto version and there's someone else playing the controller, playing the game, like I felt like I was on that platform where I was actually that. And I had this moment where it was like I was on these sort of these Aztec sort of style steps to say, and there was like these pyramid sort of fractals behind me, and then I'd look over the horizon, and it was just like this line, and just like this sort of, not hologram, but like this, just all colors, but like pyramid sort of weird sort of stuff. And I felt like I was at the center of the universe. Is that a place that may be a real place? Do you know? Is there a place like that you may have ventured into or explored that may exist?
There's an infinite amount of places. So it depends on where you're operating from. So the thing is that it'll depend on, you can reference where you're at by the qualities within the experience. So when you're looking at experiences like that happen to you, you reference, okay, well, how much time is in this frequency? How much does time exist in that frequency? How much does space exist in that frequency? And then you can realize kind of and correspond to where you're at in those experiences. I mean, the whole idea is for the spirit to operate through the body. And most of the time, our body, we're operating through our physical body or through our emotional body. We're not allowing spirit to operate through our body. Talking like this, I couldn't talk like this if I was connected to my higher self or connected to spirit, because everything slows down, time slows down, and everything changes. So everything becomes a lot more balanced when you're connected to a higher aspect of yourself. And you'll find that your voice changes and everything changes. Those experiences like that you're having could be anything. There's an infinite amount of possibilities in the universe. So it's infinite. All I would say is, when you're having those experiences, you don't want to get too attached to them, because as soon as you get attached to them, they can become more than what they are, and then you can start to distort what they are through your own lens, through your own experiential lens of what that energy, what you're experiencing that experience through, it can be distorted by you attaching to it. So you're better just to see it for what it is, experience it, and move beyond it, is probably what I would suggest to some degree. You don't want to be too attached to those things that happen, because they can become blockages rather than things that can advance you to some degree. It's good to remember those experiences and hold them dearly to yourself and hold them sacred, but it's something that you want to be able to let go of as well. It's the same as the physical world. We want to be able to let go of the physical world. We want to be able to let go of the emotional world. We want to be able to let go of the mental world and get beyond it.
So you can agree that those places exist, right?
Correct.
All right. So it is.
Look at us.
So is it an imagination, or is actually a place that I go to in an infinite universe? Maybe.
Depends. It's only you can answer that. It's without experiencing it. It's hard to know. It's an actual place, or it's just an imagination in your own mind. But even an imagination in your own mind is a place. So it has a substance. You're imagining in it, so it has a place on the mental plane. It has a place in the mental world because you've imagined it. Anything that you imagine, you can experience. And it's not, the mental body is not regulated by space. So it hasn't got a space quality to it. So that means everything can exist in infinity. And it's a matter of working through those things and being able to maintain the frequency, hold the frequency. It's about how can you go back to that place in an instant? And
no.
That's where you want to be. You want to be in that where you have full control. We're not relying on a drug or a plant medicine or something to get us there. We're getting there through our own work. We're getting there through our own sincerity, I guess. And that's what it comes down to. It's how bad do you want it, and how deep do you want to go down the rabbit hole. It's a deep place when you want to go there. So it depends on how far you want to go down, I guess.
So you keep saying infinity, and when you say infinity, the only thing I can think of is that we live in this parallel universe that goes for infinity, and there's infinity timelines, infinity versions of ourselves that go for infinity. Well,
infinity means beyond time and space. Yeah. So time is a specific thing. Space is a specific thing. If you take those two things away, what's left? Infinity. So it's something that you really, it's difficult to put into words, and it's difficult for people to understand intellectually. You have to experience it. You have to take the mind there to experience it. And that's what people have when they say, well, you do ayahuasca or DMT, they have these infinity experiences. They're experienced in the deepest nature of themselves, which is great, but they have no control over it. You can't go back there in an instant. And that's what we want. We want to train the mind and our awareness and our perception to be able to raise through those states of awareness. And that's the whole goal of meditation. You look at it, you can attain enlightenment through a rock. You look at a rock, you pitbull one point and focus on the rock. Everything else starts to disappear. You go into tunnel vision. Time starts to slow down. When the time starts to slow down, you start to let go of space. Space starts to let go, and you keep going deeper and deeper into the rock. And then you see the underlying emptiness under the rock, and you move into emptiness and an infinity quality. And from there, it's a whole different game, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So, well, time is sort of like man-made, right? And space itself is a man-made concept of what that is past the atmosphere.
I don't mean space as in space out there in the universe, I mean space in general.
The place.
Space itself. You have a reference point of space. How far am I away from you? It's a reference point of space, and we have a reference point of time. So the first thing to let go of is time. The second thing to let go of is space. That's the gateway through, so to speak.
I was going to say about the dream state, you know, like the dream state is something very similar. Like we can't say that the dream state is not real. Like if you put it in the same category, the dream state has to be somewhat real as well. You know, it has to be something happens, you know, whether this now here is the 3D, third dimension, and our dream state, we go to the fourth, fifth dimension. And you have to say that that's real to even say, well, is whatever you tap into with ayahuasca, I've only taken it once. I didn't break the vortex. I just stayed in, I had an ordeal, right? But, you know, like to say that like, you know, some people have these wild mushroom trips or the ayahuasca sessions, but you must go somewhere, like something has to be real. If the brain is piecing it together.
The problem though, when you're trying to intellectualize something it's not possible to put it into an intellectual framework. You want to put everything into a framework where you can understand it, but you want to be able to let go of the framework as well. You know, in Buddhism, they call the last thing to get beyond is get beyond name and form. So you want to get beyond, you look at a tree, you automatically reference it as a tree, you experience it as a tree, but you want to get beyond that. You want to look at a tree and not automatically reference it as a tree. You want to get beyond name and form. And that's the last hurdle to get through, where you basically forget everything that you know. You forget language, you forget everything, and you experience things as they actually are.
Yeah.
And that's the whole goal.
Have you ever explored that? Like, have you ever encountered that?
Yeah. I was very lucky. I had a very good teacher. And I was exposed to a lot through him.
Yeah.
So I was very lucky in that respect, and I got to experience things that I probably wouldn't have experienced without him, I would say. So that was my journey, I guess.
Yeah. Your teacher, is your teacher in Australia, or has he moved on, or?
He's in Mexico at the moment.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, right. So, yeah, well, it's all.
What's
that?
It's basically what I'm trying to say is that it's difficult to put these things, those experiences that you're trying to understand, kind of not for me to try and understand them for you. It's something that you won't experience yourself, and it's for you. It's hard to, I know you're trying to understand whether that's an actual place but it's hard to say without actually experiencing it.
Well, it's like you have these experiences, and then you speak to you hear people speak of it, you know, and it's like it just raises all these questions, because it's like you can relate to it. You know, when people speak about, you know, like at the moment, I believe that there's, in a bigger scale, that something is happening beyond our way of trying to understand it in this 3D realm. And one thing that I've witnessed myself is the fact that what we're all experiencing could quite possibly be a spirit war, right? Separate from that, and you can sort of find a collective. Okay. So if there's something of a collective, and it's, say, a collective state of consciousness, whether it's unity or whether it's peace or whether it's something, like there's that void thing that exists, like there's something there, you know, and you hear people speak of it when they start to venture into these realms, and it's like, well, hey, I've encountered that and I've experienced it. Like, and people like describe it as like this whole unexplored realm that we all have the key to. And if you can access it the right way, you know, you can go and venture into it, you know? So like, to me, I kind of feel like, yeah, like, I don't know, I suppose I want to be able to translate it as if it's like this mystical sense of us that we never knew we had, you know? And I think it just brings excitement to life to say, well, hey, I've tapped into it and it's great. Like, you know, you can go on these journeys and you can find who you truly are. You find your inner peace, you know, you find the creator, you find your God, you find all these things. And yeah, like I think it's, you know, and add it to all the experiences that I've had. It's just, you know, like you want more of it whenever you get disconnected from that sense of self. So that's what I was hoping you could just dive in and explain it all for me. As soon as you're saying infinities and all this stuff, I'm like, yeah, you know what it is. Like, what is it?
It's something you have to experience for yourself. And it's something that it's open to everyone, as you said. It's there for everyone. It's a matter of how much it comes down to how bad do you want it. And you know, I guess in my 20s, I wanted it really bad. I was ready to die for it. And I guess that's why I had experiences back then that were very life-changing to some degree. But yeah, it's bringing it into the intellect and trying to understand all those different levels and explain it all. It's good to some degree, but then it can kind of become a bit of a block. And you want to just focus on the process of how you get there rather than focusing on the actual experience itself. And that's why I was taught, I guess, you train a certain way and certain things happen. And it's a step-by-step process, and it's very simple. It's actually not. It's not hugely involved. You just have to practice a certain way, and certain things happen. And depending on how well you train those things, is the results you get. The experience that you have is a direct reflection of how much effort and sincerity and all those things that you put in. It's like anything in life, you know, you don't achieve anything without going in. You know, it's really hard to get successful at something without jumping all in. You got to jump in and cut the ropes and really go for it. But you've also got to have the right boat, so to speak, because there's a lot of boats there that sink halfway through, and a lot of boats don't even get off the shore. So you've got to know how to practice properly and how to train the mind properly. And it's actually a very simple process, but it surprises me that, you know, it's the most powerful tool that we have is our mind. But really, there's no tools out there for people to really train it properly. As far as I can tell, it's very limited, the amount of information that's there for people. And how do you actually train your mind? How do you train it so you can use it better? The one thing that we've got power over, you know, and it's the one thing that we keep. You know, we can train our physical body all we like, but at some stage it's going to start breaking down and it's going to start getting crappy. But our mind, if we train, it's the one thing that continues on, and that's the part of it that we continue on with. So it's something that's really worth training. I think there's a real lack of knowledge and understanding around how to train it. It surprises me to some degree.
So if you could share with somebody maybe a quick step on how to train it, what would be an example of that?
So the first part of the training that I was taught and that I teach is there's 3 parts to it. So the first step is to be able to become a completely silent observer to your thoughts. So you want to be able to separate the observing mind from whatever you're observing. So basically it comes down, I use a stopwatch for practice, because it's a lot easier to switch off the ideas of, how long have I been practicing, all that kind of stuff. You hit a stopwatch and you jump on like a pit bull, and you focus as hard as you can during that time. And that'll depend on your level of capacity. You know, it might be 2 minutes, it might be 3 minutes, it might be 5, it might be 10 minutes. It's not necessary for people to meditate for hours on end. If you can do it, kudos to you, and that's great. But it's not necessary. You can do these sort of practices in a really quick and timely manner if you practice them correctly. So basically the first part of it is to hit a stopwatch and become a completely silent observer. So whatever comes into your perception, whether that's, and it can be anything through the 6 sense gates. So it can be a thought, it can be a feeling, it can be a vision, you can be visualizing something in your mind, you can be hearing something outside, you can be tasting something in your mouth. So anything that's coming through the 6 sense gates, you want to be able to stop at an instant, or not stop it, but you just observe it. You don't touch anything that comes into your perception. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter how bad it is or how good it is. You don't touch anything. So you treat everything that comes through the 6 sense gates as like a hot frying pan. So anything that comes in, tries to come into your awareness, you don't touch it. You just let it go. And you'll find that because thoughts don't come from within inside of us. The thoughts don't come from within inside of who we are. We attract thoughts to us by how we're vibrating, what our frequency is doing. We attract those thoughts to us, and we accept certain thoughts and we push other thoughts away. And when we attach to a certain thought, we feed it and we give it energy, and that's how they stick to us. So you want to be able to get through that where you can go beyond thought. That's the first aspect. So once you can do that and become a completely silent observer from your mind or your perception of reality or whatever you're perceiving without getting distracted, then you move on to observing a single thought. So it could be anything. It could be a visual thing. It could be a candle in front of you. It could be a rock. Or it could be a feeling, whatever. It doesn't really matter. I would suggest you choose something that you're attracted to, so you can hold the mind to it very easily. So you use things that you're familiar with in the beginning. So it's
Bitcoin.
Just focus on a Bitcoin, nothing else. The whole universe becomes Bitcoin, and that's something that you can do. And if you're really sensitive, you'll start to maybe have a bit more sensitivity about what it's doing and where it is and all those sort of things. And that's a matter of becoming, when we said in the beginning about equalizing, you want to be able to equalize with any frequency. You want to be able to equalize with it and match it in frequency so you can experience it from its deepest aspect. You want to go into its depth point of what it is and experience it from a real level. And that's the pit bull mind. That's a lock on. Like for me, meditation is not this relaxing thing where you go and burn incense and listen to music, and that's not what it is for me. And that's not how I was taught. It's more a military martial mind. Lock on to your object. Nothing else exists, and you go hard. And if you can do that for 2 minutes, great. 2 minutes of that is better than 60 minutes of floating around in la la land, basically. So it's really about how you train that. So once you get to that point where you can lock on to a single object without losing focus, you move on to observing a completely empty mind. So nothing comes in. You don't allow anything to come in. That'll be easy or hard depending on how you've gone with the other previous exercises. You'll find that thoughts will come in from a distance and you'll be able to just stop them at a distance. And you hold that empty, vacant space, basically. So that's the first pathway. It's a difficult one. It's very simple, but it's actually quite advanced for a lot of people, and it's something that's not easy to obtain. It depends on how bad you want it. It's basically how much you train it. It's very similar, again, like the gym. You put lots of effort in and you get results. If you don't put lots of effort in, you don't get results. It's exactly, there's no difference. It's open to anybody can do it. It's just a matter of training hard.
Yeah. So you feel that thoughts are all energy coming in and not necessarily that coming from within the mind.
Every thought, everything already exists. Because if we're in infinity, if everything is underlying empty space, everything is already there.
Mm.
Because if God or whatever you want to call it is beyond time and space and is everything, then everything is already there. It's just a matter of being able to align with the frequency. And that's what those people were doing, like Nikola Tesla and those guys, they were able to align with the frequency of information. And that's what most inventors do. Like you look at Albert Einstein, he experienced the knowledge before he was able to actually intellectualize and understand it. He experienced it in a state, and then it took him a few years to actually break it down into an intellectual thing. But he experienced it in that quality.
Well, that's that's a human, like a superhuman power.
It's not superhuman. It's just something that we've lost, and everyone's got the capacity to awaken it. It's just a matter of how you live your life and how much effort you put into it.
Have you awakened it?
At times, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It used to be in my 20s, it was very different. My 20s were, it was a different time.
I think there's more here, Dave, that you're not telling. I know listen, it's an open mic. Fire away. Just like, is there, I don't know, is there a key maker and are reptilians really running the world? Like, I don't know, but you probably can't answer that.
It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's all an illusion anyway, really, at the end of the day. And it's not important. You think
like a hologram?
Yeah, I do. I don't think that's anything that whenever the mind is going external places, the light of the spirit is going out. It's going out, so it's dissipating. We want to turn the light of the spirit around and go back in. That's the goal. Not to go out, but to go in.
Well, the bizarre thing is that me and you are having this conversation right now. So we must exist, right? So I'd like to just put my hand up and go, hey man, I'm just infinity. Like, I'm greatness and I'm infinity. That's my job, but like, I don't know, like it's weird because, you say about the energy, like I could have one coffee in the morning and I could be having an email argument driving to work, that does exist or didn't exist only because I sent an email or you're waiting for a reply or something, but that's just caffeine that brings in all this anxiety, and that's just driving to work, so it's like I create all that, so if, and I hope so, I want to try and learn this now, but if it is all just energy coming in, well then that means that this isn't my true identity, because my true identity is just energy. So
the way you break it down is we've got the way I was taught and the system that I use is we've got a physical body. Our physical body lives in the present moment. It needs to eat, sleep, do whatever it needs to do in this moment. So it's always thinking about the present moment. It's breathing, the heart's beating, all of those kind of things. So it exists in this time continuum, in the present moment. The emotional body or the astral body or the soul exists from birth to death. It's the makeup of who we think we are during this life cycle. And that's not immortal. It doesn't continue on after death for most people. So that's a part of us that we think we are. We think we're this, I'm David and, I've got all these things and that's who I am. But it's not really who I am. There's a deeper aspect of ourselves, there's something deeper, which is the spirit. So you have the physical body, it has a center of gravity just underneath the belly button. The soul has a center of gravity in the heart chakra for most people. and the spirit is the center of gravity in the head. And that's the framework to use and the spirit is the only thing, that part of us that continues on. It's the only thing that's immortal. It's the immortal aspect of us.
Is the spirit aware?
Yes.
So the spirit's aware, but this awareness now that I have, after I feel you just shattered my life now, and you've really made me, tomorrow I'm going to have to rewrite another book just to go, holy shit, like I thought I knew who I was, but I'm just all this energy now, like let's change my energy. But I mean, this state of awareness that I have now, this is not my spirit sense or the voice in my consciousness that lives on. So this life and death goes, but the spirit flies away and will not be doing many Instagram stories in the next life, right?
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Yeah. I don't know if that was a joke or whether I just heard it wrong. Yeah. So look, I think we're pretty much close to calling it a wrap. I did just want to ask you one question. Doesn't matter if it's on the mic or off the mic, but I'll just fire away. So your training and stuff, you keep that sort of bodybuild sort of training, or you just train, lift weights?
Yeah, I was pretty heavily involved for a long time. Now I'm getting a bit older. I'm not training as hard as I used to. I'd like to be. I'm trying to get back there shortly, but we'll see. But yeah, it's mainly just heavy lifting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of breath work, breath training.
Yeah, I noticed that. I seen that in a couple of your videos, and I was like, oh, I might give that a try. I kind of knew what you were doing, and I'm like, oh, should. Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, look, we'll wrap it up. So, yeah. So thanks very much for doing this. And I don't know, I'm gonna have to get my journal, rewrite it.
Yeah.
All right, pal. I'll just hit stop and